Hello, Skywatchers. Welcome to May of 2021. Get your binoculars handy. We have a lot of nice objects to look at in the night sky, and you don't necessarily need a telescope. So let's start off with looking at our planetarium program in the western sky on May 15th. Now on May 15th, we have the sun going down, of course, later and later these days. So let's set the sun. And we don't want to go too far here because we have some planets, as you can see here. I'm going to back up our date to May 12th to start with. And the moon is next to Venus. So you can look at that through your binoculars. Why not a telescope? A telescope zooms in just a little too far, and you can only look at maybe a portion of the moon or maybe one planet at a time. So if you use binoculars, you can get all of this in your field of view at once. Now, if you want to zoom in further and look at these things a little bit closer, then sure, a telescope would be great. Now let's move ahead one more day. May 13th, we have the moon and Mercury pretty close together. And Mercury is sometimes hard to find. It's a fast planet. It's the closest planet to the sun. It doesn't stay out of the sunlight for very long. So as we move through the month of May, Mercury will be getting lower into this glow of the sun and we'll lose it again. So look at it while you still can. If we jump ahead 2 more days to May 15th, we have the moon and Mars close to each other. And you may have noticed by now that these are all in almost a straight line. And that's because they're on a line, an invisible line that we call the ecliptic, the path of the sun, the moon, and the planets. Now, they don't have to be right on the line. They could be a little bit below it or a little bit above it or right on it, but they won't stray too far from the line. And that, again, is the ecliptic. We'll talk more about that in the months ahead. So if we turn to the south, and go a little bit later at night, we have a popular constellation that we talked about last month. I'll just bring it up again, and that is Leo the Lion. Leo the Lion with this nice bright star called Regulus. So keep looking for that. And also some of our other zodiac constellations. We have Cancer the Crab in the same area. Let's move ahead to the eastern sky and later at night. We can see now it's 1 in the morning and we have Scorpius the Scorpion starting to rise. But he's more so a summer constellation rather than a winter constellation. So as we get into summer, he'll be rising earlier and earlier. Now, if we turn just for a minute over to the north, we've been keeping an eye on the Big Dipper and the Little Dipper, as we always do, to see where they're at. Now, this is 1 in the morning, so the Big Dipper is already in the northwestern sky with the cup facing down. So as we get later into the night, you'll see it getting lower and lower and going around, of course, that one central point known as Polaris, our North Star. So that star stands still, everything else goes around it. If we go back to the eastern sky, we have more planets to talk about, so get those binoculars handy again. As we get to about 3:30 in the morning, we have Jupiter and Saturn that will be visible. We see Pluto and Neptune in this area of the sky as well, but of course they won't be visible with your unaided eye or even with a pair of binoculars. So look for Saturn and Jupiter. Now I'm going to move the calendar ahead and you'll notice something else moving into the picture. Look over to the right-hand side. There it is. You see the moon coming in. As we get to May 27th, May 28th, I'm going to move ahead to the 31st. And on the 31st, we see Jupiter, Saturn, and the moon making a nice little triangle together right here. See if you can fit all of that into your binoculars at one time. But if you do have a telescope, of course, Jupiter and Saturn are very nice to look at. Now the moon looks kind of full here. It's actually full on the 26th of May. And on the 26th of May, it's also, the moon will also be known as a supermoon because it's a little bit closer to us. So it may look a little larger. It's pretty hard to tell without looking at a photograph. Also, this full moon will be involved with a lunar eclipse. We will have a lunar eclipse on the 26th. The bad news is that you won't really see much of that here. You may notice the very beginnings of it where the moon starts to dim down a little bit, but the eclipse will be most widely seen in the Western United States, Western North America, the Pacific Ocean, and Eastern Asia. So here we may not notice very much at all. And that is on May 26th. So actually, we would have to back up our calendar a little bit, and the moon will be a little more to the south. So in our southern sky. Now, of course, when the moon rises, it will rise at the same time the sun is setting, and that's how we get a full moon. The sun will be setting, the moon will be rising, and we have a full moon. If we move back over to the east, go earlier into the morning, we can start to see the glow of the sun and sunrise. So with that, I hope you enjoyed our tour through the May night sky. There are so many other objects to look at, but those are some of the interesting ones for now. We'll talk more again next month. Thanks again for joining us here at the Yon Planetarium at Penn State Behrend.